evening chanting in English begins on page 19. To the Blessed One, the Lord, who fully attained perfect enlightenment, to the teaching which he expounded so well, and to the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, to these the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, we render with offerings our rightful homage. It is well for us that the Blessed One, having attained liberation, still had compassion for later generations. May these simple offerings be accepted for our long-lasting benefit and for the happiness it gives us. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and Blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teaching so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples, who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha. Now let us pay preliminary homage to the Buddha, homage to the Blessed, Noble, and perfectly enlightened One, homage to the Blessed, Noble, and perfectly enlightened One, homage to the Blessed, Noble, and perfectly enlightened One. Now let us chant the recollection of the Buddha. A good word of the Blessed One's reputation has read as follows. He, the Blessed One, is indeed the pure one, the perfectly enlightened one. He is impeccable in conduct and understanding, the accomplished one, the knower of the worlds. He trains perfectly those who wish to be trained. He is teacher of gods and humans. He is awake and holy. Now let us chant the supreme praise of the Buddha. The Buddha, the truly worthy one, endowed with such excellent qualities, whose being is composed of purity, transcendental wisdom, and compassion, who has enlightened the wise like the sun, awakening the lotus. I bow my head to that peaceful chief of conquerors, the Buddha, who is the safe, secure refuge of all beings. As the first object of recollection, I venerate him with bowed head. I am indeed the Buddha's servant. The Buddha is my Lord and guide. The Buddha is sorrow's destroyer, who bestows blessings on me. To the Buddha I dedicate this body and life, and in devotion I will walk the Buddha's path of awakening. For me there is no other refuge. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of this truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By my devotion to the Buddha and the blessing of this
Now let us chant the recollection of the Dhamma. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading in words to be experienced individually by the wise. Now let us chant the supreme praise of the Dhamma. It is excellent because it is well expounded, and it can be divided into path and fruit, learning and liberation. The Dhamma holds those who uphold it from falling into delusion. I revere the excellent teaching, that which removes darkness, the Dhamma which is the supreme, secure refuge of all beings. As the second object of recollection, I venerate it with bowed head. I am indeed the Dhamma's servant. The Dhamma is my Lord and guide. The Dhamma is sorrow's destroyer, and it bestows blessings on me. To the Dhamma I dedicate this body and life, and in devotion I will walk this excellent way of truth. For me there is no other refuge. The Dhamma is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of this truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By my devotion to the Dhamma and the blessing of its practice, by its power, may all obstacles be overcome. Now let us chant the recollection of the Sangha. They are the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, who have practiced directly, who have practiced insightfully, those who practice with integrity. That is the four pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. These are the Blessed One's disciples. Such ones are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of respect. They give occasion for incomparable goodness to arise in the world. Now let us chant the supreme praise of the Sangha. Born of the Dhamma, the Sangha which has practiced well, the field of the Sangha formed of 8 kinds of noble beings, guided in body and mind by excellent morality and virtue. I revere that assembly of noble beings, perfected in purity, the Sangha which is the supreme, secure refuge of all beings. As the third object of recollection, I venerate it with bowed head. I am indeed the Sangha's servant. The Sangha is my Lord and guide. The Sangha is sorrow's destroyer, and it bestows blessings on me. To the Sangha I dedicate this body and life, and in devotion I will walk the well-practiced way of the Sangha. For me there is no other refuge. The Sangha is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of this truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By Sangha, and the blessing of this practice, by its power, may all obstacles be overcome.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Welcome to Saturday night at Abhayagiri. Taking the opportunity to practice Dhamma together, do some meditation, reflect on the teachings. I've been spending a fair amount of time the past couple of months having regular conversations on the phone with my brother, who's had some period of illness and is doing much better now, thankfully. But it's been a very nice opportunity to kind of renew and refresh and reinvigorate our relationship. Lots of memories of our lives together growing up. He's older than I am, so he was around when I was born, and we've spent periods of time together and long periods of time not seeing each other as well as people do. But anyway, for some reason, a vignette or just a memory from before I was a monk came to mind in the past few days, and kind of has some Dhamma reflective qualities around it. It was a period of time when before I was, as I said, it was well before I was a monk, a number of years before I was a monk, just starting to get interested in practice as a lay person. I was probably in my early 30s at that time. And I was at his house in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was just he and I, and we were sitting at the dinner table having dinner, and he had a beer that he was drinking along with his dinner, and there was this fly, this housefly that was buzzing around, and we were just watching it as we were eating our dinner, and this fly ended up zipping right into my brother's beer and landing there. And he didn't sink. He was kind of sitting on the surface of the beer, and we were just sort of watching it. And all I can presume was that it was taking a little sip here and there, because after a few minutes, it flew up out of the cup and immediately flopped over and sat on the table and kind of just sat there for a minute or two while we were watching it, and started to move, and it was kind of staggering. I didn't realize that flies can actually get drunk, but it was a drunken fly, kind of staggering and falling over a little bit, and taking a few more steps and then falling over. And we were just watching this fly and wondering what was going to happen. And it tried to fly up a little bit, and it kind of and then plop back down, and took a few more staggering steps. And after a couple of minutes or so of doing this, it finally got itself up again and started flying around, and within a split second zipped right back into the beer and landed there again. And we were just kind of, neither of us said a word. We were just watching this happen. And it sat there and did the same thing all over again. Got up, flew out, kind of staggered on the table next to the glass. And this is the truth. It actually flew up, got in, did it a third time, went back right into the beer, and came back out and kind of more or less did the same thing. Finally, it flew away and went off somewhere else. We never knew what happened to it. But it kind of just, I didn't really think about it much at the time, but later on, as I got to know more about my habits and my life and the teachings of the Buddha, I realized that, much of the time we're doing the same thing. We're just kind of staggering through life and dipping into these sources of what we think are going to be somewhat pleasurable activities, getting our bit of a hit of pleasure, and kind of staggering along and jumping up and doing it all over again, time after time after time, like that drunken fly. And just realizing that this is how, it's a metaphor in the sense of how we spend much of our lives as human beings, till we start to wise up a little bit. I think of course, the difference between us and a housefly is that we have this kind of intellectual capacity that we have this ability to think and reflect and conceptualize about what's happening with our lives that a housefly or most other animals that I know of anyway don't have. And we have the capacity to use that ability to reflect and conceptualize, abstract, and think about things. We have the ability to use that in either useful ways or in not so useful ways. And in fact, oftentimes what it seems like we find ourselves doing is using that capacity to think and rationalize our world as a way of supporting these same kinds of unskillful mental habits and the ones that are just following impulses. But we can actually compound these tendencies in a way that a fly doesn't, with the application of our thinking process, intellectual process. How many times do we find ourselves, following some sort of what's basically a desire of some sort, a sensual desire of some sort. It's basically just doing that, like say around food. Food's a biggie. It's been brought up in a number of talks in the past few weeks. It's one of the few monastic sensual outlets that we have still. We have these desires or these cravings or these opinions or these views about food, and we find ourselves following them, these kind of cravings or views and opinions about what's healthy, what's good for us, all that kind of stuff. And rather than just admitting that it's basic reptilian brain that's in operation, we start to justify and rationalize and build up stories around it all, like, oh, I worked really hard today, so here at the meal time, I should take a bit more of this or that or the other thing because I need to restore my energies. And do we actually take more rice and beans, or do we take more ice cream? What is it that we do? So, but this rationalization process kind of basically talks ourselves into doing that, or I need this for the health of my body, or feeling a bit tired. We use these kinds of rationalizations. Also, there's a one that sometimes I still see coming up every now and then, is one that's like, the people who brought this food would be upset if people didn't take very much of it, so maybe I should make sure that they feel good about what they brought and their offering, and take maybe a little bit more. And I catch myself, there's Mara trying again, using my ability to construct stories and thoughts around these kinds of things to justify this kind of bit of craving for something delicious. So just watching this process go on, and how we use that mental process, or like say in the case of irritation or anger, somebody's done or said something to us, and we have this basic animal urge to retaliate and justify it with some sort of conceptualization, like, oh well, he can dish it out, but he should be able to take it back. Or we have another story of something like, he's really harming other people by doing this or by saying this, and somebody needs to set him straight, so I guess I'll have to be the one to do it, when it's actually our own irritation or anger that's speaking out. Can also see ourselves doing this in meditation practice. justifying why we maybe aren't practicing formally the way we should. We have a lot of work to do, so we really need to accomplish this task or do this thing first before we remember to put some time into meditation or reflection. All the various stories that we tell ourselves, or in the household life, coming home from work, feeling a bit tired, don't really have the time, the energy to practice, and need to get our rest for getting up in the morning, finding ways to occupy our lives without making time for more formal practice and remembering the teachings. There's a couple of stories from the suttas about how we get so fooled by appearances and what we think our bodies and our minds are all about, and don't realize, or in the stories, pointing out how we're so duped by these, by our views and opinions about who we are and what we are and what we can get from life, and how we keep on living under this conceptualized illusion of our lives and what they mean, and kind of ignoring these underlying drives that are really controlling our lives. And there's one that it's a very stark story of how we're fooled by these various opinions and views and attitudes towards our body and our mind, with the story of it's when Venerable Sariputta was trying to set the wrong view of a certain monk into right view, and this monk had sort of an annihilationist viewpoint, and Sariputta was teaching him about various aspects of the path and how we reflect and regard our bodies and our minds. And it's a fairly long sutta, but the kind of core story that I'm thinking of is Sariputta talks about a parable of a wealthy man who hires a servant to help him out. And unbeknownst to the wealthy man, this servant has murderous intent. He wants to get back at this wealthy man for some reason I don't quite know. But he decides to engage in employment with this wealthy man, and he comes into his life and trains to be this man's servant. And he does a really good job of it. He gets up in the morning before the wealthy man arises and gets everything ready for his day, presumably prepares his clothes and his food, his breakfast, and serves him well, watches what the man likes and provides that for him, serves him well through the day, gets everything ready for the evening when the wealthy man retires for the night, and makes sure that he is into his retired evening and sleeping before he then goes to bed himself, and continues doing this until he gains the wealthy man's trust. And as soon as that happens and the man's guard is down, the servant takes this opportunity to fulfill his goal of murdering the man, and does so. And Sariputta compares this murderous man to our five khandhas, our five aggregates that we usually regard as ourself, our body and our mind, and how we put trust in this body and mind. We just make these assumptions without thinking very much, that this assumption that this body, this set of mental abilities that we have, this mind, are substantial and controllable and have a sense of permanence to them. And we place our trust in the enjoyment that we get from the body, the enjoyment we get from the mind, the sense of continuity, the sense of reliability. We trust in this body and this mind. But in the end, it's just like this murderous servant. It starts to deteriorate, it starts to break down, the body gets sick, the body gets old, the intellectual capacities start to fail, and all the trust and reliance that we've put on them for our security in life, in our place in our life, is we start to see through the illusion. We realize that we've been duped, and this body is turning against us and is not under our control the way we thought it was. This mind isn't under our control. We lose our ability to think clearly, to rationalize. All of these supports start to fall away, and then they do fall away. So this is how our abilities to abstract and intellectualize can sometimes get us into deep trouble. We start to live according to our concepts, our creations, our views, our opinions, and we follow them as they support these underlying basic drives towards craving and all of the manifestations of craving for existence, craving for sensuality, and craving for annihilation, the three forms of tanha. We don't really see those going on, we just follow our stories as we live our lives. But the upside of all of this is that we can use that same capacity for thinking, for reflection, to our betterment as well. We don't have to use it at the service of our underlying defilements, underlying states of mind that are controlling the situation for the most part. We can rise above it. We have these human brains that have this capacity to reflect and to readjust our actions based on this ability to reflect on how we are living our lives and questioning our assumptions about what it is that will actually make us happy in the longer term, not just the short term. This is it's a unique, in the animal world anyway, it's a unique ability of the human beings that we've been blessed with. And we just need to employ it in a way that's not supportive of the underlying conditions, but is supportive of developing wisdom and insight and directing our activities of body and mind in ways that will support our understanding of the teachings and how we can rectify our habitual ways of operating in the world. So there's I think a nice teaching also that kind of illustrates this rationalization process for good and for ill, but starts out with the Buddha talking about, he calls it I guess it's the eight ways that a monk can be lazy, 8 grounds for laziness. And one of them, it starts out with that a monk has the thought, I have some work that needs to be done, so that will make me tired. I better lie down. And so the monk lies down and neglects putting forth effort to attain the as of yet unattained, to realize the as of yet unrealized. This is the first form of laziness. Or the bhikkhu might have a thought, I've done some work and now I'm tired, so I should lie down. And this is the second basis for laziness. The third, a bhikkhu has the thought, I have a travel, I have a journey that I need to take. And that journey is going to tire me out, so I better lie down. And this is the third basis for development, or third basis for laziness. Or he returns from a journey and says, I was on a journey and I got tired, so I should lie down. The fourth basis for laziness. Or he has the thought, I didn't get very much food on alms round today, so my body is a bit tired and weak, so I better lie down. So he neglects his training, doesn't make any effort to realize the as of yet unrealized, to attain the as of yet unattained. Or he goes on alms round and he gets plenty of food and eats and experiences his body as heavy and unwieldy. As the simile goes, like a sack of wet beans. And therefore he says, well, I'm tired, I should lie down, and he neglects his practice. Or he has the thought, I feel a little bit ill right now, so I better lie down. Or he has the thought, I've just recovered from an illness, but my body is still weak and tired, so I better lie down. So these are the 8 bases for laziness that a person can indulge in. But we have this capacity also to use our mind and our thinking mind, our reflective mind, to turn that around and to turn these situations into motivations for practice. And so the 8 bases for diligence in the practice would be that a bhikkhu has the thought, I have some work to do. When I do that work, I won't be able to attend to the teachings of the Buddha in my practice. So before I do that work, I'll sit down and attend to those teachings before I begin, and give a period of time to sit and reflect. This is how a bhikkhu puts forth effort towards attaining the as of yet unattained. Or he's done some work and realizes, during that time that I was doing some work, I wasn't able to attend to the teachings. So now, let me take the opportunity, now that I have some time, to attend to the teachings. Or a bhikkhu is going on a journey and realizes, while I'm on the journey, I won't be able to attend to the practice or teaching, so let me do a bit of it now. Or on returning from the journey, I wasn't able to do it on my journey, so let me practice now that I'm back and don't have to do that. Or he goes on alms round and doesn't get quite enough food, but reflects, I didn't get quite enough food for my daily sustenance, but now my body is light and wieldy, so let me use this opportunity to practice now and take advantage of that lightness, even though I didn't get enough food. Or he gets just the right amount of food and eats to his content, and he reflects my body is strong now, it's been well nourished, so let me take advantage of this and attend to my practice. Or he feels a bit of illness coming on, and he reflects, well, it's a bit of illness, I don't know what will come of that. It may get worse. If it gets worse, I won't be able to practice, so let me practice now and attain that which is yet to be attained. Or he is recovering from an illness, and he has the thought, this illness may come back, so let me not waste time, let me practice to attain that which has not yet been unattained. And this is the basis for putting forth effort and diligence in the practice. So the same circumstances, the same situation, but how we hold it, how we conceptualize it, how we use our reflective capacities to respond in not just our typical animal tendencies. And we have this ability to project a scenario into the future and say, well, do I really want to embark on what it is I'm about to do or about to say? What will the future consequences be? The animal mind doesn't even go there. It just acts on instinct and immediate gratification. But this ability, this unique ability for us to stop, to inhibit for a moment. We have this capacity to actually inhibit our actions, our responses, that other animals don't have this ability to stop, wait, reflect, consider, project into the future of what the possible consequences of some particular action will be. So we learn to exercise that capacity and to do that. And to say, do I really want to go there? Do I really want to do this? Is that going to be really fruitful? Maybe something else. Maybe I can readjust how I look at this situation. Maybe I can come up with an alternative that will lead to my long-term benefit and welfare, and that of others as well. So it's important to just realize that we have this opportunity to use our minds, to use our intellects in ways not to rationalize our unskillful tendencies, but in ways to recreate how we live in the world. We can also use this ability to reflect on kind of the ultimate goal, that there is something beyond this conditioned realm of stimulus and response and ignorance. We can listen to the teachings and realize that even though most of the time we spend our lives kind of just wandering through samsara, picking and choosing things that give us a temporary sense of gratification, but realize that there is a potential to move beyond that to a complete form of wisdom and peace that is an escape or a release from this wandering on. It's a teaching that is very liberating, and we can just, using some of our abilities to learn and reflect, just to bring it up for inspiration that there is an alternative. I've been listening to a number of Ajahn Sumedho teachings recently, and one that he gave recently this year, he pretty much spent the whole 45 minutes or hour talking by reciting and reflecting on a very simple teaching regarding the unconditioned that we recite in our chanting fairly often. And it's just one that I find is very useful towards a way of using my own intellectual, mental capacity to provide inspiration and energy on the path. And it's just that simple realization of the unconditioned. There is an unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, unformed. If there weren't this unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, unformed, then release from the world of the born, the originated, or the created and the formed would not be possible. But since there is this unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, and unformed, therefore it is possible to be released from the world of the born, the originated, the created, and the formed. It is possible. So just reflecting on these kinds of teachings about what the ultimate goal can be provides this inspiration to pull us up out of our fog and realize that we have the capacity, the power to use our minds, to use our intellectual capacities to the fullest of our extent as we are able as human beings. This is a special opportunity that we have in this birth to use this body and this mind in ways that other beings don't have as an option to them. We have all the capacities of this ability to reflect. We have the right conditions. We're here where the teachings are alive. We've got intact sense faculties where we can hear and receive the teachings. We have the inspiration to do that and to see if there's a way out of suffering. So it's important to remember this, to recollect this, and to take advantage of it while we have this all too short human life, and this possibility to realize the Dhamma. So I'll just offer that for a bit of reflection for this evening.
Recite the verses on the Buddha's first exclamation. It's on page 83 of volume 1. closing. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, I render homage to the Buddha, the blessed one. The teaching so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples, who have practiced well,